So if you can learn how to lead yourself, choose positivity, think critically, and reject passivity, you can cultivate influence from whatever seat that you're in.
Hello world, Maura Abad here with Asset Management Visionaries Shaping Tomorrow under the umbrella of the Association of Asset Management Professionals. I am so honored today to bring you Clay Scroggins. Clay, such an honor to have you.
Thanks, Maura. Really grateful to be here. Thank you all for being a part of this, and thanks for taking your light, shining it on me for just a moment. I appreciate it.
You are just light every time we have an interaction.
Well, thank you.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Tell the world who is Clay Scroggins.
Yeah. I live in Atlanta, Georgia. My wife and I have 5 kids. That's where we spend the majority of our time. But I studied engineering in college, went to grad school and studied theology. I worked in the world of the pastor world for about 20 years. But in 2017, I wrote a book called How to Lead When You're Not in Charge. And that kind of, I feel like an accidental leadership speaker, because that opened up a bunch of doors for me to start speaking on the topic of learning how to cultivate more influence. Most people want to rely on their authority, or they want to use the lack of authority as an excuse to why they can't do the things they want to do at work. And that book really, the heart of it was to help people learn how to cultivate more influence, so they can be the kind of leader they want to be, so they can get done the things they want to get done.
And we definitely want to promote your book. Tell us a little bit more about the book so people get a sneak peek of it.
Well, that question, what do I need to do to cultivate more influence? That was really the basis of the book, is trying to figure out, all right, if it's true that leadership's about influence, not about authority, if, we all look at our boss and think, if I could just have my boss's job, then I would be able to get done all the things I want to get done. That's usually the first sign. That's where it happened to me. That was my first, for me, it was the aha moment of, because there were a couple of promotions that I got, and I got my boss's job, and I thought, okay, now I'll be able to do all the things I want to do. No. It doesn't work like that. Learning how to cultivate influence from whatever seat you're in is really the way of leadership. And so the book really rallies around that concept, but then it gives 4 big behaviors on what do I need to do to cultivate more influence. And I wouldn't prescribe these to you, but you might want to pick 1 or 2 of them. The first one is I've got to lead myself. Second one is I've got to choose positivity. The third one is I need to think critically. I need to bring that skill to the table of making something better. And then the first 3 are things I need to do. The last one's something I've got to avoid. The last, number 4, is about rejecting passivity. It's so easy to become passive when you're not in charge, because you feel like you're receiving everything. Everybody's handing you decisions. Maybe they're not involving you in things, and so it's just really easy to become passive. So if you can learn how to lead yourself, choose positivity, think critically, and reject passivity, you can cultivate influence from whatever seat that you're in.
Yes, definitely, Clay. And sometimes, in our daily lives, we might say, no, I'm a follower, I'm a leader. Tell us a little bit about that perspective. I will say, how can we evolve into that leadership?
Yeah. Well, I like using history, and I won't cite anything specific just for the sake of time, but you could think of anybody throughout history that has done something great. Most of the time, it's a person that didn't have the authority to do the thing that they were wanting to do. They weren't in charge. They weren't the boss. They weren't the king. They didn't have full carte blanche autonomy. No, they were in some kind of system. But in that system, they learned how to cultivate influence, and then they learned how to leverage that influence to move people to do what they might not want to do to accomplish what it is they want to accomplish. To me, that is leadership. So with that definition, I think we can all agree, the idea of a leader is not necessarily the person in charge. It's not necessarily the person out in front, and it's not the person holding a microphone. It's every single one of us, that we all have this thing inside of us to make something better, to build something, to move something forward, to create something, or to organize something in such a way that it brings flourishment to it. To me, that is what leadership is. And if that is the case, then yeah, every person at every level is a leader. The question is, do we know how to cultivate influence? And do we know how to leverage that influence to be able to move things, to be able to move people, to do what they might not want to do, to accomplish what they want to accomplish?
Yes, we have the Uptime Elements framework. We say leadership is action. at the end of it all.
There you go.
We say that leaders see what's missing and he or she immediately activates.
Yeah, a couple of years ago I was doing that concept of rejecting passivity. I was speaking in front of it was actually the University of Texas Medical School faculty. So these were very intelligent men and women who teach at this very large, well-esteemed medical school. And I get done talking about rejecting passivity, and this professor comes up afterwards and he said, "I hated that." And I was like, "Oh no, that is not the emotion that I was hoping to leave you with." And he said, "No, I hated it because our administration is so passive." I said, "Well, tell me more about that." Because whenever you hear someone blaming, you can use this at work. Anytime you hear someone blaming someone or something, it's usually, it's really our best way we smuggle our own passivity into the future. So blame is often a sign of somebody who is being passive. So as soon as I heard him blaming, I thought, oh no. And he said, I've been wanting a mentor program on our team for years, and I've told them they need to start a mentor program. I've put it on feedback forms, I told them directly, and they just won't do it. And I just stood there and thought, how could someone so smart say something so unintelligent? Because if leadership is action, what's the action that this person could go and take? He doesn't need he doesn't need a mentor program. He could just go mentor someone, right? And that's the way things move, that's the way things change. When someone decides, I'm not gonna be someone should do something about that kind of person. I'm gonna be I'm gonna go do something about that. And so I just encouraged him, hey, why don't you try this? The next time somebody starts on your team, go and tell them, hey, could I take you to Chipotle? I'll buy lunch. We'll get crazy and splurge for guacamole, the extra $2. And I will tell you every pitfall that I've stepped in, every problem that I've messed up with, and maybe you might want to avoid them. Who's not going to be interested in that, right?
And that's such an important point, because sometimes we're waiting.
Yeah.
No, I'm going to wait later.
Yes.
What would you suggest? Because the imposter syndrome can happen to
Yeah.
all of us at many times. But what personally would you say to us that is something that we can remember and say, let me go back to my core. Yes, I can lead. I can do this.
I had a professional coach for years who used to ask me, almost every session, he would ask me this one question that is such I remember thinking, I'm paying you to ask me this question, but he would just say, what advice would you give yourself? Which I know that's simple, but if you could get on the other side of your waiting and just ask yourself, what is causing the hesitation? Is it, I'm afraid that I'm going to get a reputation of being a renegade or a rebel, or I'm creating problems for people, or is it my own imposter, my own insecurity? Because sometimes the noise is from the outside, sometimes it's from the inside, but we got to identify where is it coming from. But then I would say, hey, give yourself some advice. What would you say to someone else who would say, well, I don't know, I don't want to seem like an imposter, or I don't want to feel like I'm messing with somebody else's world? Have you ever had a moment where somebody came up to you and said, hey, I have a thought about one of your biggest problems. Would you be open to hearing about it? Of course, you would say yes, right? And so there is a way for you to not look like you're just messing in somebody else's sandbox. And then with the imposter thing, I think you got to ask yourself, what kind of leader do you want to be? A couple of years down the road, what do you want to have to say? Or do you want to be a person that has a lot of regret? Or do you want to be a person that says, hey, no, I've made some mistakes, but I'm moving forward. I am going to apply Maura's principle that leadership is action, right? I've got to move. I like, the racehorse. What kind of racehorse do you want to be? Do you want to be the one that is running, that somebody can just steer? I think the Kentucky Derby is actually on Saturday. Or do you want to be the kind of horse that somebody's got to pick up and move?
Correct.
The latter is impossible, right? Be the one that says, no, I'm going to move, and I'm open to direction. I'm open to someone steering me if I'm off base, but I'm not going to make somebody get me to move because I'm moving.
Exactly. And you mentioned about positivity. Many times I close the show by saying, and don't forget to smile, because a smile is such an important thing. But tell us about the power of positivity.
Yeah, I wrote a chapter on that topic and sent it to a friend of mine, and I'll never forget, he messaged me back and said, feels a little bubble gum. And I was so mad because it felt like such a hurtful thing to say to someone, but I now know what he means by that. He means it feels lightweight. It doesn't feel heavy. It doesn't feel powerful. It feels like, oh, that feels, even to hear you say that, just smile, come on, leadership's more than that. Well, of course it's more than that, but it is that. That is such a huge part of our ability to influence others, is what they feel when they're around us, right? I like the cell phone trick. When you see someone's name pop up on your phone, what do you feel? Sometimes you think, oh yes, I need to talk to this person. Sometimes you think, not today, Satan, right? I don't have time for you. And you got to decide, how do you want others to feel about you? You're not a victim to the way they feel. You have the opportunity to influence the way they feel when they see your name pop up. And what's going to change that more than anything? The energy you bring, right? Whether you are a wind in their sail, whether you're the kind of person that is, you're not nagging them, you're not bringing just undue criticism, but you're helping them move forward. You're helping them grow and get better, and you're a wind in their sail. And if you can become that kind of person, I'm telling you, you'll have a job the rest of your life for sure, but you will have a massive amount of influence, because the world needs more men and women that are voices for good, that are forces for good, that are a wind in the sail of someone that we work with.
Well, let me tell you that I am activating already. What I'm gonna do first thing on Monday is gonna be connect with my team members individually, and I'm gonna ask them the question, how do you feel when I call you? And then,
be careful, be careful.
Yes, and then I'm gonna maybe check with them when will be even the best time to call.
Yeah.
Sometimes I might call them 7:30 a.m., right? And that might be not the appropriate time. I really appreciate that advice.
Well, that when I talk about learning how to lead myself, that's really the place where I have to, I feel like it's the place where everybody can start, is doing just what you are talking about doing. Am I willing to go get some feedback from others? Everybody wants feedback. Everybody does. If you knew there was information orbiting your world that would make you better, wouldn't you want it? Of course.
Immediately.
Of course.
Yes.
Everybody wants it. Nobody's going to get it. Nobody. And when I say no one, I mean the data says 86% of people want it. The inverse number, about 14%, have done anything in the last year to go and get it. And so it is very rare to find a leader that's willing to go get that information. But I would encourage you, as you're thinking about leading yourself, go get the information. Go get it. It's out there. It's available. Don't make it be a surprise to you. The biggest decisions about your career are going to be made when you're not in the room. So go figure out what's being said when you're not in the room. You can go get that information. And that will formulate a plan. Whatever these people say when you ask your team members, hey, what do you feel when I call you? Whatever they say, that's going to formulate a plan for how you can lead yourself in the next year. And so I would just encourage you, whether you're going to do what Maura is going to do and go ask people what they feel. I like the question, what is it like to be on the other side of me? What's it like to be on the other side of me? I like that question a lot because it brings some objectivity. Most people aren't willing to answer that in person. You might have to email them and say, hey, spend some time thinking about it, but I would really love for you to give me some feedback, because feedback's precious, and if you can get it, it's one of the best ways to help lead yourself well.
Well, the show is called Asset Management Visionaries, and on asset management we talk about decision making, and that decision making is with facts, with information, with data or data, right? That we need to collect. I did a poem that I call Data or Data. Yes.
We should end this episode with data or data.
Data or data, exactly. Well, Clay, there is so much to talk, but any other words of wisdom, call to action to our audience about leading yourself?
Yeah, I would say most people, if you ask most people today, why aren't they doing more to lead themselves, they would say, because I'm exhausted. That is the number one thing that I hear from people is, I am overwhelmed, I'm exhausted, I got too much on my plate, I got so much going on. And if that's you today, for one, I would just say, I hate that you feel that way, right? I mean, I don't want anybody to feel overwhelmed or exhausted, but I would just encourage you, if it feels hard to lead yourself, it's because it is hard. But don't let the difficulty of it keep you from doing something. Pick one thing that you're gonna do, a new habit, a new behavior, a new question you're gonna ask. Because the way life works, when it's hard, that's when we grow, right? It's the reason why I hate the weight room, because the weights are heavy, because the weight creates resistance, but the resistance creates strength. And so if you're in a difficult season, I would just encourage you and say, this might be the best season for you to grow. And so if it feels difficult, I know our heart goes out to you, but also I would just encourage you, don't let the hard season keep you from growing the way you want to grow, because it is possible, and it's actually one of the best seasons to grow in.
Definitely, there are seasons and seasons, and how are you going to take that pain or emotional pain to take you to the next level, to inspire others, but also to inspire yourself?
That's right.
When we're talking about leading ourselves.
That's right.
And what legacy are we going to be leaving behind as well?
It's a great question.
How are we going to be remembered?
That's right.
Definitely.
That's right. Well, thank you, Maura.
Thank you so much for your expertise. I'm telling you, you're always light, being really looking forward to this interview. To learn more about Clay Scroggins, we're gonna place a link so you can contact him, learn more about leadership. Remember to continue smiling,
Right.
And we will see you in the next Asset Management Visionaries Shaping Tomorrow. All the best to each of you.
Thank you.